Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, insects. This is Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and I'm sitting here with my counterpart and significantly better player than me, Kyle Fergusson. Welcome back, Kyle.
It's good to be back, man. It's been quite a week.
It has. It really has. As per usual, the long line of bizarre personal happenings with the purchase of a new home continues. There are two holes in my ceiling that should not be there as a result of this weekend, and that may have eaten into my heroes play a little bit. But I had a lovely little session last night, finishing up my my Nexus challenge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, with a buddy of mine who who also was finishing up theirs.
Secret buddy, huh? Well, I mean, it's not like you have voles or something weird like that. The house is stable, yes, not on a landslide or anything like that.
No. The holes that went in the ceiling were entirely by human error.
Oh. Hopefully not anger.
I will just, to keep it theme this week, I will just say Ragnaros came for a visit and called a couple meteors down.
Fair enough. Well, there's a lot of people returning right now. We have a lot of people who maybe bailed on Season 2. They didn't feel like the system was working for them, or that the changes weren't enough. Maybe there wasn't a hero they were into. Maybe their favorite heroes got nerfed into oblivion, and they didn't feel like playing. But now, once again, the new season is upon us. Mm-hmm. There has been a big update to a lot of heroes, almost zero nerfs. So everything's still really good looking. Maybe some of these reworks will be a little too powerful. We might have some backlash from that. Maybe even Rag himself will be too powerful. But a lot of people are getting back into this game right now, and I'm hearing from a lot of you your frustrations with either the placement systems, with maybe the skills you're stuck with. And a lot of people are asking me, how best can I climb in this time? And it always comes back around to assassins. And I'm always telling people you got to play assassins, and then they give the counterpoint, which is, how do I pick assassin when everybody picks assassin and specialist? Everyone thinks they're the best. And the tough truth of that answer is you have to know you're the best. Like, they think they're the best, but you have to force them on to support and tank because you are the best. And if you can't be honest with yourself to know you're the best, then you should tank and support.
I also don't personally experience that as being true. Certainly, I fall into situations where I am forced to either tank or support, which I don't prefer doing. But more often than not, it's relatively easy for me to get the hero I want or one of the multiple heroes I would like to play as. It's anecdotal, of course, but I mean, I get it. If your last pick, it feels like every time your last pick, you get screwed into supporting. But I feel like ever since the dawn of Malfurion, people have been a little more willing to take the support role and not necessarily as just giving up because they're the last pick in the draft.
I think Malfurion's been a great thing for the game. As weird as that is to have some sort of OP support kind of floating out there, the awesome thing about him is supports in the randomized order that you get in Solo League are going to be first pick sometimes, and they've had the option now to pick up Malfurion, and that has been great for them, and I've really appreciated that.
I think it's gotten some people just thinking about the support role too, and
That's
where
true.
they otherwise may have not, and they think because Malfurion gets banned a lot, right? But I still see plenty of smart support picks. I still see plenty of last pick support picks, and I really do. And again, it's anecdotal evidence, but I attribute a lot of it to Malfurion because I think when he first got that touch up and he was just so strong right out of the gate, everyone was just trying to grab him up right away. And I think as he became the ban, people were like, well, okay, I understand why we won because of Malfurion. Why will we win because of these other supports?
And those are a bit more thought out, honestly. Your other supports have to be considered and what they're going to do, and perhaps even the play style they're going to have. And Brightwing is probably the biggest one for me. I don't know what my Brightwings are going to do when they get in the game. Brightwing has amazing auto attacks. The Arcane Barrage, or the Spit that she does, is just fantastic. And you can get really high damage on Brightwing, but are you a hover player? Do you go for heal numbers and not really consider the output of damage you have for Brightwing? Will Brightwing top off the Vala fast enough? That's something I've been teaching a lot in my lessons, particularly because there's just a lot of Vala players out there right now because she's really good. But what sort of support do you have for your Vala? Is Malfurion too slow for Vala? You might need to get topped off from a Chromie Blast before you get rewound. And those sort of nuances can be difficult when you're figuring out what sort of team you've put together. But as always, my biggest advice would be, like I said earlier, if you think you're the best, be the best. But also make sure your team has enough raw damage to actually win, because Morales is going to be a cut in your damage. Even Johanna might be a cut in your damage, depending on how these characters are actually played. And you won't win a game if you can't kill the enemy team. And that is definitely the most frustrating position to be in. And we're also in a bizarre meta right now because we have 3 tanks that are solo tanks, and we have really, 3 supports that are solo supports. Everything else is more bruisery, and you got a Kharazim. That's great if we're winning, but now we need to work in a Tassadar and a Lili, and then you got Artanis. Is he good with everything going on? Can he solo tank? We don't know. So let's fill him out with a Zarya. Yeah, okay, Zarya brings enough damage and some shields. She's kind of like a Tassadar. But now it's this infinite weave of trying to figure out the best way to draft if you don't get the Vala, ETC, Malfurion, and sort of down the line.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's getting a bit figured out again. It's feeling like last Christmas, to be completely true. Like, we're about to hit the break, the winter break, where we're going to kind of be, I don't want to use the word stuck. We're going to be paused in the state of the game that we're currently in.
Yes.
Before, the holiday break is over, 2017 is upon us, and we're all back to work, including the developers over at Blizzard.
It's going to be an interesting time, and by the end of this Christmas, we could just have the weirdest pile of abilities going on. I don't know what Rag's going to do this game. I think he could be first pick. Honestly, it's not bad. Maybe it's a little defensive, but then you just take the forward keep and turn it into that, so that's not a problem now. It's going to be really weird right there, and at the same time, 10 more placements. And then add on top of the meta being completely in flux and people not really sure how to draft anymore. You can't solo support on Lili. What do I even do with myself? There's all these sort of weird messages being thrown at us. We're still trying to figure out from 2 weeks ago where we should be getting information, how to digest what the pros are doing with map rotations when nobody's rotating in your game. On top of all this turmoil comes out a Dota patch that adds healing wells and a pseudo talent system in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So with that came this influx of articles and critiques on Heroes of the Storm. And the one that got the most traction was this Game Sutra article about why Heroes of the Storm is an esports failure. And that got traction. So people's heads are just all over the place with this game. It really is a bizarre time to live.
It's extremely strange, man. And you just referenced a lot of outside aspects, but you and I especially, and probably the folks that listen to the show and everyone who are really in Heroes, we do live in a bubble of sorts, right? I'm not saying that all of my friends who enjoy Heroes of the Storm, we don't sit down and have a conversation of why Heroes isn't the most popular esport, but at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of us honestly care all that much. We enjoy the esports that do exist for Heroes of the Storm. If you're putting out that article right now, I love Gamma Sutra, but if you're putting that article right now, it's before 2017. This is before a very large league revamp in Heroes of the Storm. So cool. It feels like you're getting your punches in before they've had a chance to prove themselves on their course correction.
They do make some good points, though, across those articles. One being just the very real fact that there's a lot of money in League of Legends and Dota. Why would a pro player currently making big bucks over there even switch? That's an honest critique. The other one that I found very interesting from the watchability of Heroes of the Storm was that all talents are basically taken at the same time. All 5 certainly on your team get level 10s at the same time. But then the enemy is very quickly to get their level 10s too. So the analysis gets a little bogged down when everyone's getting things at the same time. Granted, we took an hour-long game and put it into 25 minutes. Things are going to get compact in that way.
Okay. So let's bring this back to something. Let's try and bring this back to the land of constructive discussion. Do you, Kyle, prefer it when things are figured out, whether it is could be considered a sale or not, or do you prefer these times of uncertainty when things are in flow, in flux?
The time of figured out that we just went through was extremely ridiculously stupid kind to me, as nobody was really taking Tychus and no one was banning him. I still just live in fear of the random patch that's going to roll out and be like, Tychus, you're done. Your time in the sun is over. So in that way, I succeeded during that time period. A flux period that we're coming into now, particularly with 10 placements to go, and the cutting in half of Diamond, which is a scary fact, does make me nervous.
Okay. But is there any part of your lizard brain, though, that it gets excited by the challenge of figuring it out?
Absolutely. Oh, I'm thrilled to pieces about Diablo. I've been hearing pros saying that they are first banning him in their scrims. That's exciting.
Very much so. We just had a fun game ourselves. Didn't win, but had a good time.
It was a good time. Well, we played a quick match, to be fair, so it's going to be whoever's the better blank. And in this case, it was actually whoever was better Nazebo, because there's a certain spider build you can do that at level 20 absolutely ramps up into just insanity right now.
Yeah, we touched on it last week. Like, oh yeah, and his spiders, are getting a little bit of a buff and yada, yada, yada. He's ridiculous. The Nazebo in the game we just played against broke 100,000 damage without breaking a sweat.
And matched our Asmodean Siege numbers, too. So that's just going to be a quick match right now. The better Rag will win the game. The better Zarya, the better Dahaka, Artanis, down the list. I still haven't run into a single opposing Diablo yet because he's just not that hot.
No, he's not the new shiny.
No.
Although neither is Nazebo, but I mean, if you can just throw spiders on the new hero, Ragnaros, and destroy a third of his health and poison damage.
Well, let's be fair, too. This is a World of Warcraft hero that just released, and that's going to bring in and back a lot of people, particularly when it's these raid bosses they actually faced.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had to give advice, and let me be clear, Kyle, I am asking you for advice right now. How should I get ready for my placement games?
Oof, that's a tough one. So you don't want a tanker support. I would rather support one of those.
I'd rather support than tank.
Cool. So you'd rather support. That's good. At least you have that option when it comes up, because as long as you can do one of them, someone else will be pushed onto the other. The worst part is facing, particularly in the lower leagues, the fill guys, because that to me says you play too many heroes, nothing you bring will be refined. So I would say refine your heroes. You know what I've got for this season right now in my pocket? Tychus, first and foremost, no matter what, and that's a question you need to answer for yourself. If you are first pick, there is no reactions. You get to know the map maybe, so Sylvanas might be available, something like that. But make sure that whatever it is, you know exactly what you are best at and what is the most refined when you get in that situation. Hover it the second you get in, because you're not going to be creative here. You're not trying to entertain your audience, as bad as I feel still when I stream and play nothing but Tychus. You're going for wins here. So just focus in and don't be creative. Make sure you have enough damage on your team. So you're going to want people like my second place, which is a little surprising. I didn't think it would come through this way. I honestly tried Kael'thas and Alarak. Wasn't making the results I needed. Jaina is my second in line right now. because she does a crazy amount of damage and is not reliant on good supports to take care of old shoulder pads. I can't get zoned out as the game goes on like Alarak can. So there's two heroes that I'm going to use that are very powerful regardless of what period in the game I'm in.
I like that. Okay. All right. So even though we spent last couple episodes talking about how maybe your mechanical prowess isn't the most important thing, that it shouldn't be the only thing you're focusing on. If you're trying to brute force your way up in rank in solo queue, it's still something you should very much pay attention to.
Let's take Sky Temple for an example here, because that, as I mentioned last show, that was my real problem map, and I spent some time figuring it out. One of the best things about Sky Temple is it's extremely reliant. You are always going to have the two temples in the top, followed by the temple in the bottom. On that map, in the early game, you can absolutely control the mercenary camps and make sure that when you're doing the bottom, that you have the giants to give you the zoning. You can push forward, take out the enemy's well, and then they don't have a well to retreat to. It's really nice, on top of that, to have someone like Zarya, who can be on the pad while giving shields to the fight that's happening in lane above. I'm talking about the bottom lane here.
Yeah.
But that initial 6-7 minutes of that map is always the same. So when you think of it like that, it becomes very mechanical and map-based. If you get those bruisers right as the bottom hits, those are going to push out the top. A unknowing player base will lose to that. You'll get a snowball effect off that well you just took in the bottom. You're going to win out that map. There's a way that your map awareness, your map knowledge is going to help you win. But on the more randomized maps, or maps where it's just always the same, like Dragonshire, mechanics will always win out.
All right.
So here's something we talked about, and I want to put this out as well. I said my first two picks. Jaina does not match this requirement, but, Ring of Frost is just crazy amazing. So it gets a little countered in that way. Same as ETC. But when you're looking for a main assassin, what you're really looking for, even specialist in this way, Sylvanas fills the role too. What you want is some form of mobility, and you want to have good auto attacks to back it up, with a spell damage option that is reliable and a little bursty. And immediately think of Illidan when you're putting this equation in your head. Illidan jumps you, and then he hits evasion, missing all basic attacks. So Raynor doesn't really fit this option because the push doesn't last long enough or do enough burst damage, and it's not a controllable thing. Tychus fills this because he has great auto attacks, and Overkill lasts the duration of evasion. Vala matches this because she has great auto attacks, and Hungering Arrow matches the duration of evasion. Balsat has the same thing, high mobility, spell damage available, great auto attacks. Alarak, to the same extent. Thrall, great. Ragnaros, I think, is absolutely in this camp.
Wow. Alrighty then.
In that way, when you narrow yourself down to one assassin that you are amazing at, you are going to refine your mechanics more than any sort of fancy draft, Azul double controlling the top thingy is ever going to do for you. In particular, if you're in the lower leagues, don't do that strategy because you're making XP for a team that's not going to spend it wisely.
Wow. Strong words.
It's the truth. This whole experiment has been really stressful in a way, and not in the way I expected. I expected to be stressful in the front end of the achieving the masters, in becoming the dojo. But instead, what I found is maybe why pros are so salty, because you open up your eyes and suddenly you know things, and you know when that should be taken, and this camp should be taken at this time, and that's the bad time to take it. And all these things can add to this huge pile of frustration with the game. And particularly if we have a lot of people out there, and I know I did this with StarCraft more than I ever have with Heroes, but if you watch a ton of esports and you forget to play the game yourself, when you get into that game, you are going to tilt ridiculously easy.
Because you're coming in with that baggage. You're coming in with that, that pre-assumption that everyone else has, saw that sweet strat, saw those sweet lane, the lane switches, and you're just like, well, why aren't we rotating? What's up with the rotating? Why aren't you reporting on? Why aren't you reporting on time? This is something that came up in our patron call-in show just last week, and it's interesting because You're saying don't do that, but you're saying that that is happening to you because of the knowledge gap you just jumped.
Well, and it can be frustrating to be on Spider Queen. Thrall has control of the bottom. Hey, guys, let's do a 4-man rotation between the middle and top. And it just falls apart because everyone wants to hang out for that last bit of XP there or wants to get that last little orb or maybe wail on this wall for a little bit. And it just immediately, even in a voice comms environment, can just come crashing down. But what's more important than all of that altogether is the Vala who's saying, my team stinks because I never get support or peels. Heals and peels are what I need to make this Vala work. I can carry you guys, but you're not supporting me. The real awful answer to that is that your mechanics weren't good enough in the first 2 minutes to show off to the support and the tank that you are good and they should look to you to carry this game.
That sounds a little dangerous. I mean, though, don't you think? I mean, don't you think that that's probably not true all of the time?
There's probably tons of people, particularly in the Silver League, who have great mechanics and are stuck with disconnectors and trolls. And that's just kind of where they end up because even the trolls have decent mechanics, so they're not in bronze. And even this guy who has this awful computer that disconnects 3 times in a game has decent mechanics, so he's in silver too. I mean, there's certainly leagues where all these little rules are going to fall apart.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the list of heroes that are probably worth spending my time learning that you went through already.
And make connections, too. That's the next thing you can do when you expand your set. Vala has a Bolt. Falstad has a Barrel Roll. Tychus has Run and Gun. They all dash about the same distance, and so you're already sort of mechanically working yourself into being better with those. Alarak, Kerrigan, Thrall. Kerrigan, one I didn't mention earlier, great auto attacks, great spell damage.
Yeah. And Ragnaros as well. He has a speed boost with his E ability.
He does.
So you can close those gaps as well, which he really does have amazing cleanup potential.
And Ragnaros is particularly interesting to me because he's the opposite of Sylvanas, where Sylvanas is really powerful when you're winning and in the early game to get a snowball, whereas Rag is really powerful throughout the game and on defense and attack with his trade ability. So yeah, he's kind of a scary dude.
We lost our last game, and I felt fine being behind. Like, as they were pushing in, it was like, cool, we're 20, my trait is happening more often, let's do this, sure. Come to me, let's do this. That's a rare feeling to have with a new hero. It's very rare that a hero comes out, I pick him up, and I'm just like, oh, I feel okay from behind.
And we put you on a Blast Wave build, which is the easiest one to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's no insult. I mean, when you play a new hero, you should always pick all the passives. You should pick yourself anything that makes it easier on you in Blast Wave. Just pick all the pictures. It's just simple.
It is. And then you can focus on the base mechanics, like the entry-level stuff that you should be expected to know to play him, which is QWE and, his trait and his heroic. And then later on, you can go that sweet meteor build where you're going to have to be microing your meteor and other things.
Yeah.
With that in mind, let's dive into this week's Heroes News because the Firelord is at the top of it.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Put me to the stage.
Click the play button and let's get started.
So Ragnaros, the Firelord, is here, Kyle. As you mentioned, many World of Warcraft players are quite excited, probably journeying back, taking a peek, because there's not a new WoW patch also to compete with this at the moment. I think it's pretty clear from our opening remarks that we're both pretty happy with him, that we think he is in a good spot.
Yes. No stats to really reference right now because this is patch morning here. We all expected on Tuesday, but it came on Wednesday, oddly enough.
Yeah, there was a giant Vegas party for Blizzard for the holiday party. So that probably played a factor, I am sure. I was very confused yesterday because I was like, yeah, Ragnaros Day. My buddy was like, dude, let's quick match. I want to finish up my Nexus challenge. And I'm like, I'm actually pretty close too. Let's go do that. And got on, and I'm like, all right, 1 sec, just got to buy Rag. And he's like, dude, he's not out yet. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm tabbing through the shopping cart. Whatever, it's fine. Whatever. This show, Into the Nexus, is, doing our holiday hours. We're recording on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern time until the new year. So this is new for us. We've never done an episode this close to a patch dropping.
Right. I can't tell you guys how my placement went because it's noon Pacific time and I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can tell you there's been 14 games right now where Rag has made it into Hero League and he has a 64% win rate. That knowledge is useless, but it's not bottom.
It's useless.
That's really good for those 14 games and the 67 bans he had.
Yeah, no, he's strong. He's great. I don't think we really took the time to go ability by ability when we did our kind of first BlizzCon impressions when we had the chance to try him back in early November. So let's do it. I mean, I think we talked his trait kind of to death. I think everyone at this point knows he takes over a fort or a keep. It has to be either an allied fort or keep or a destroyed enemy fort or keep, and becomes a raid boss. It's awesome. You get a whole new range of abilities that are very similar to the abilities you have with your base kit. They just do more damage and have an insane range, an absolutely insane range. This was learned minutes ago by me when we had a double push coming in on Dragonshire. We had the dragon pushing mid and a split push happening in bottom, and we couldn't really decide. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna stay bottom. I'll fight back the split push. And then after I had already pushed back the split push, I still had some time left on my trait, and I realized that two of my abilities, while I'm using Molten Core, could still reach the middle fort that was currently being pushed by the Dragon Knight.
Yeah.
So I was, dropping meteors and blowing the ground up.
He's good. He's good. The talent builds are also really easy to get into. If you want, you can basically focus on a single ability. What you probably should do is take a look at 13 and see what sort of survivability talent you're going to go later on and base the rest of your kit off of that if you're being creative. But for now, I mean, if you love Rag, just get expert at Blast Wave, get expert at Living Meteor build, and you'll wreck for the rest of the week.
Yeah. I mean, if you get... Meteor is disgusting for picking off escaping heroes with low life. You're gonna get the kill. Yes. Right now, we all have to learn to juke out of the way of the meteor. It hurts, and chances are it will. If the Ragnaros player is being predictive enough, they will land a hit on you. But the real damage, the real kicker, is if you walk along with it. If you're standing in this ball of molten pain as it's rolling along. So running in a straight line away from Rag is just bad news. We need to learn that the second we see that come down, juke in the direction you think that Ragnaros didn't think you were going to go in.
And it's tough, and you are probably going to take a little bit of damage off this regardless. There's plenty of single-click abilities in this game, or just a Frostbolt you didn't dodge. So it's not crazy OP, but you do need to be prepared for it. And it's small. I mean, this ball can't hide inside, certainly if you're playing Asmodan. I was on Diablo for that game. You were on Rag, so you were already on fire. So becoming on fire wasn't exactly a tell in your eyes.
Not really, no. Can't say it was. Blast Wave, though, I mean, he starts moving faster, too. So that's a bit of a tell on Blast Wave. If you see the Rag speed up or a friend of Rag's speed up, they're about to explode on you.
And that heal on his Q is powerful, and you're going to have to remember it when you get into a 1v1 fight against him.
Yes, especially if you're playing Samoro, which we went up against one in our game just a little while ago, and the healing off of all three Sammys in my face was nice.
It is.
So, already talked about Meteor, talked a bit about Blast Wave. I think that the thing on Blast Wave is remember that you can cast it on your friends. There were multiple times in our game when we were doing Flame Bros, Diablo and Ragnaros, where I should have cast it on you so you could close the gap and secure the kill.
Yeah, those things are going to happen, and we're still learning. But yes, we could have gotten a kill in that situation. I had a moment in Team League. We were on Warhead Junction, and Gorath grabbed everyone on the enemy team inside a Void Prison. But all of us were half health and had no area effect ability, so we all just kind of went, oh, that's beautiful, Gorath. Well, no one can act on it. But we're sitting on 2 nukes. And when it's all over, we go, oh, we could have launched the nukes and it could have dropped on the Void Prison as it turned off. It would have been awesome.
That would have been disgusting. That's sad. That makes me sad just hearing.
I know. It could have been incredible.
Jeez. And then we've already discussed heroics off air a bit. I think definitely we need to revisit it, though, the two of us, because Lava Wave just kind of seems like the pick right now.
It's tough to avoid it because Sulfurous Smash is doing things you almost already have on your kit. I mean, you have a lot of area effects. You have a lot of spell damage. Yes, it can get you a sweet stun for only 0.75 seconds, whereas Lava Wave is going to win games because how many times have you had to send back Lunara to go clear the lanes because you're fighting in the middle of the Battlefield of Eternity pit, and the Lunara is the only one with low enough health, so you have to send her back early. Instead, what you can do now with Rag is stay in the pit, stay in the bottom of the mines, and clean the whole thing up with Lava Wave. And Sulfurous Smash doesn't give you that option.
Yeah, no, by the way, it's only half seconds done. I believe the windup is 0.75 seconds on the ability. It is a half second stun on a heroic.
Even worse then. I mean, the damage is good. If you are on Towers of Doom, if you're on... Towers of Doom is probably about the only one I would consider this on right now. There's lots of objectives that get people to stand still where you will hit the stun. Towers of Doom is the only map where pushing really doesn't matter because... Well, pushing is just going to warrant you a tower that will probably get cleaned up. Yes, you can overpush, take all three of the towers. That rarely happens.
Yeah. So how much... We talked a little bit, again, off air, so I know I'm repeating it to you, but how much... Like, where is the strength in Lava Wave? Because I think right now, the big question anyone just wielding Ragnaros is, when do I use it? It's on a 100-second cooldown, so it feels like you should use it, get that cooldown counting back down again, but what happens if you're caught out without it? But what happens if you never use it, waiting for that big save that you needed to make with the ability?
We don't know. We're going to have to figure it out. The same's going to go for Molten Core, the trait. You have a 100-second cooldown on that. Our enemy Rag used it twice before the first objective, didn't have it for the Dragon Knight, but that gave him the power to take the Dragon Knight in the game we played there. Should you use Molten Core the second it gets off cooldown, because it starts on cooldown, so you can't, counter Sylvanas cheese in the initial couple seconds. But once it's ready, I'd say for now, use everything on cooldown. Just know you're experimenting. You're going in the quick match. Use Molten Core every time it's ready. Use Lava Wave every time it's ready. And then we can eke off of that. That's always, when you're learning something, the best way to do it. Make sure your economy is solid. And in this case, your cooldown management, your mana management. From then, we can make the difficult choices of, Lava Wave was used too early there, cleaning up those mercenaries, which it actually didn't really clean up if they're mobile. They have to be standing still to really take out a wave of bruisers, as we found out. Those sort of little rules are something we can add later on and become better at.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the interest of it depends, I'm sure will be moments where you're about to use it, and if you can take in the information at the time and decide to hold on to it because something bad might be just about to happen. But I think that's safe enough. I think it's safe. New hero, let's figure it out together. Maybe keep these abilities on cooldown to the best of your ability.
Right, let's imagine the nightmare scenario. You pop Molten Core and Lava Wave because you have an incoming Zerg rush on Braxis, and it's a full-blown wave. You lost the pads. It's going to be big. It could be game-winning. So you use all your abilities, and it's spectacular, and you wipe out the Zerg wave. But your wave had 6 Zerglings to it. Nothing. Those get destroyed instantly. You wipe out the entire wave in a dramatic display of power. That wave immediately disappears. You are trapped inside your own base for a little bit, and they take the Archangel. And with a 5-man push, they push with the Archangel, the boss from the middle, and take your core. In that moment, do you say, Blast Wave was misused. Maybe I should have only used one. We're all going to learn together.
Well said. Well, Lava Wave also seems strong, Kyle, because a certain battleground of fame or infamy, depending on your opinion, has returned to Heroes of the Storm. Haunted Mines, dude. The rework is here.
And it's good. I like it. we'll see what my win rate is. That's why I dislike Haunted Mines in the original place. Also, the religious fervor that everyone got whipped into whenever mercs were wrongfully taken. That was during alpha, beta, and a little thereafter. So we were all figuring out things. Certainly my mechanics. I'm right there in a lot of yours boats. I hear this story a lot. You know, I got into this game and I just wanted to have fun. I tanked my MMR and now I can't climb out. I did the exact same thing. So I'm right there with you guys. So I'm curious to see what this is going to look like on the field. In PTR trials, there's a lot of walls for Diablo to knock people into. The mines have always been like that. The mine bottom, by the way, is beautiful now, full of crystals and all sorts of little intricacies. The boss is sitting right in the middle of it rather than off to a side. There's many, many entrances to the mines itself, so you're not really locked out, nor do you have an extreme walk if you do die down there. And one of the coolest little notes is that in the middle of the map now is a hole. And if you walk to that hole, you can see down the hole into where the boss is. So you can get a glimpse at whether or not the enemy's taking the boss.
Yeah, the redesign of specifically the mines, not the battleground haunted mines, but the mines themselves within the battleground, I love. There are 4 entrances now in kind of the 4 corners. So it just seems way less terrifying if you give up the first death in the mines, because you can come back in from multiple different positions, as you said, because of the multiple locations. You can get back down there quicker. I really like it. And also engaging the boss, it's going to be a dance, and I look forward to that dance because of the position of the boss.
I mean, it's still the old Haunted Mines boss that you know from Cursed Hollow, all these sort of things. There's still going to be slams and that business. The boss does change, or the golem does change lanes. And that is a huge update from the previous mode.
Yeah, because they would just continue pushing the same lane.
Which meant the strategy was pretty stale. Let's get in lane, and we know exactly which lane it is from the get-go. Let's get Sylvanas and track this thing down.
Absolutely. Now it swaps lanes every time it spawns.
There's also sapper camps, which show their first appearance here alongside regular siege camps.
Yeah, the bruisers are gone. So we have siege, we have sappers, and they came in along with a lot of the assets have been swapped out for Towers of Doom assets.
Yeah.
Which I like. I think it's interesting to have the sappers in a battleground where they're not gonna be. They don't become core damage, right? Because there's not a no-go zone where they hit the border and they're just like, okay, now we're catapult shots. Or
well, they wouldn't transform, but I assume they would still suicide the core when they reach
yes.
it. I actually can't answer that. I don't know. I haven't escorted them to the
well,
core to see what that damage looks like.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's a really good point. So how is it assigned? Because in Towers of Doom, there's a specific point value assigned to the core, and each sapper counts as a bell shot.
So is it 1/40th of the core damage? That doesn't sound pretty good. Jaina's Blizzard will do more than that, but we'll see.
We'll see. Okay, we're getting into questions we didn't think we had. This is what's happening right now. Overall, I think it's good that it's back. Although now that it's back, I'm like, can we please, maybe take another battleground out of the rotation? I wouldn't mind. I would be okay with Garden of Terror just taking a break.
My Garden of Terror win rate's well over 60% right now, so I really, I'd veto maybe Sky Temple because that's the only one below 50%, but it does start to wear, and I would like those as well. But there's the whole question. There's 10 people, all of them have 1 ban each. And then you get a map that you didn't want.
Not what I'm saying. I'm not saying give me a World of Warcraft veto system. I'm saying just remove it from the pool. A game-wide decision so that we don't run into that problem.
They've talked about that for a long time, that seasons will have, much like StarCraft has, particular maps.
Right.
Though StarCraft has its own system there where often the tournaments themselves will redo or make the maps better that Blizzard did, or just make entirely their own maps, and then those get officially sanctioned later on.
Yes.
So it's not a perfect analogy.
No, it's a little more. Yeah, it's not perfect, but I get what I follow your line of thinking.
Yeah, seasons. This is the map pool for the season. We make sure there's not too many Sylvanas maps in a row, but otherwise you kind of even it out. I mean, remember Gazlow's win rate when it went down to Towers of Doom and Braxis pretty much all by itself? That was too much. That was too big of a cut and favored Gazlo in this weird way.
Yeah. By the way, I think I have finally beaten it out of my head that it's bruisers, not knights.
Nice job.
It only took the entire length of time of Haunted Mines being gone. I guess. Anyways. So yeah, I'm glad it's back. Interested to see how long we stay with this current number of battlegrounds in the rotation.
Agreed.
The PTR patch is now live, Kyle. Everything we talked about and didn't talk about last week with the PTR patch is now live in the game, starting with Weinzierl. We got 2 holiday-themed events in 2 different Blizzard games this week. One was in Overwatch, which I talked about today, and I'm going to keep talking about winter events in Blizzard games right now because Weinzierl is back, and we can finally ride our Christmas treasure goblins again.
But no special snowflake mount yet. Is it in the bundle?
It's in the bundle.
Okay. All right.
It appears to be the only way to get it, which means, I'm sorry, Kyle, but you're required to buy that bundle.
What, and ride it myself? I still want to get this thing to people, right? Anonymously, when the game is over.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
You split push the whole game, and, a little ding in the top corner says you've received a gift, and you open up special snowflake. Right there. Who gave this to you? I don't know. But it might make you think.
You want passive-aggressive insults in the form of a gift.
They're not insults. They're reflective messages in digital form.
Judgment, maybe.
Think about what you've done.
So judgment.
Yes.
A scold. A scold in the form of an in-game gift.
Kind of like coal from Santa.
But not as bad because it's kind of a cool mount.
Yeah, it's better than coal.
Yeah,
but still, you have to respect the fact that in his infinite creation of toys, he chose to haul with him this huge pile of coal to make a statement. He could have given you nothing, which perhaps would hurt more.
But he went out of his way to make sure you got a dirty rock.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, whatever the case is, you need the special snowflake mount because you use that term so often.
Awesome. I'll get on it. That's fair.
So with it is a 25% XP bonus, a new event quest, which of course brings with it quest rewards. So get in there, get your XP bonus. It's starting today, and it's running through January 4th. So we get to ring in the new year with an XP bonus. The Weinzierl quest is to play 25 games in any matchmaking mode, and you receive the special snowflake portrait and the treasure goblin mount.
Sounds good to me. I like XP.
Yep. So Hero League is solo queue only as of Season 3. Again, with the asterisk of this may not be permanent, it may be changed in the future, but for as far as Season 3 is concerned, solo queue only.
And Team League now allows 2s and 3s, and of course parties of 5, and that whole silence biz we talked about last time.
Yes. Absolutely. They also made the league adjustments. So Silver and Gold League population sizes have been adjusted. They're going to now contain a similar number of players, and Diamond League is getting cut by about half. So it's now going to contain half as many players as it did in Season 2.
So we would expect this to be a huge number of people into Platinum, and those that were Platinum should end up in the bot of Plat, but I don't know if they're going to push you to Gold because they're adjusting those sizes for Gold.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I take this as more people that were in High Silver will be in Gold this season. If you were in Gold, you'd probably just stay there, and Platinum will be more or less untouched. It'll just have a lot more players in it. So I think the thing to take away from this is if you were working your way to hit Gold, you probably have a good chance this season if you don't just straight up place there. And Diamond is just more prestigious.
And they did reduce the certainty of the matchmaking system, so you once again will have greater weight on your placement games, which is why we had the sort of top of the show discussion we did. These are important, and it's easy to lose track of them in your head. At the same time, you need to be cautious. You should play more careful than you normally do because you are not playing with your league anymore. MMR and your league kind of marry together to make a decent system, and I do like it. When I'm at my MMR, which is mostly unchanged, in low diamond, I need to play crazy safe because everyone else is an unknown. But when I got up to Masters with basically the same MMR as it still is on Hot Slogs, those games became much higher quality because it matched my MMR, which may be lower than those needed for the diamond area, but with the Masters rank. And together, that made a powerhouse that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that area. So for me, certainly, I'm preparing myself to see some weird stuff. I'm preparing myself mentally to be maybe placed in Platinum because of this new system. That's okay. I've got the mechanics. I'm going to do it again. That's the goal.
I would be impressed if that happens.
Could be, though. Could be. And more important than all of that, even if I get placed at Diamond 3, I have to be careful because this is the MMR everybody of my MMR, not the MMR of my people who achieved this season a higher league.
Okay. Sylvanas had her price reduced. Is the other thing that happened with this patch. So if you've been waiting for a deal, there you go. And then Braxis Holdout had the initial Zergling spawn increased. Doubled, in fact. It's originally 3. It is now 6.
Hooray, it's a proper Zerg rush.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I don't think this will change much.
No. The Warheads on Warhead Junction also had their base damage reduced. They were at 2750. They're now at 2300. And the Warhead damage now scales by a flat 70 every minute and no longer has a large jump at the 18-minute mark.
Good. Healthy.
Yep. And they clarify that the inner Warhead damage is unchanged. It's still a 50% bonus.
This is a neat tool we didn't talk about last time. You can now link heroes in the chat, and you can use these to also give greater grabs of heroes to your allies. So if you type in right now melee into the search terms, you will find a melee or ranged hero. But you can also do this with your little boxes, brackets. What are they called officially?
I would call this brackets.
The brackets. If you type in a hero name into brackets in your chat, you will give a linkable button that your allies can click, and it'll instantly select that hero for you. So a cool little tool that you can use to maybe help out some of those drafting buddies you have that might not be able to find ETC fast enough.
Oh, okay. So a polite suggestion, and it makes it even easier if you would like to take someone up on said polite suggestion.
Right. If I would like to, I can go, we need a support, and then link the bunch of supports that I feel would be good for that situation. You're gonna have to type very fast. Yes, you will. But It's a good way to stay active.
Greer in the chat room says it should be specified as square brackets.
Ah, the square ones.
Yeah,
the squaresies.
What's the other type of bracket?
The ones that have the little nose on them, the mustaches.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. The mustaches. I don't actually know what those are called. Not important for our discussion here. Feel free, though, to tweet at us, because I'm sure many of you will. Well, let's move on and talk about the balance changes. Some of which we talked about last week. We'll still revisit some of them. Like, Kyle, I'm curious. I'm going to give you one more opportunity to do a little bit more of a deep dive into your thoughts on Diablo, because you seem very excited.
Very well.
And but first, we didn't talk about Chromie. Chromie got some changes. Her trait, Time Walker, has increased the level reduction for getting talents from 1 to 2 levels.
That's right.
That's huge.
Yeah, so you're going to have level 8 ultimates on Chromie now. You're going to have a level 2 selection of your level 3, as it were, level 5, and so on. Level 20 at 18. It's going to be a little mad.
Yeah, that's just cray-cray.
A powerful buff to Chromie.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And this is the thing. We're not one of these players, but there are those Chromie players out there, right? Those dedicated Chromies. It's their jam, man. The hipster Chromies right now are going, well, all right then. I wasn't really having a problem before, but I will take this and run.
She's a powerful option. You just got to make sure your team has enough body.
Yes, absolutely. It's something I've been wanting to pick up because for whatever reason in a lot of my games, I've been going up against Hammer. And I'm just like, ooh, Chromie would be really nice right now. It used to be that Zagara was my go-to against a hammer, because it's just, all right, you get roaches dropped on you, you're going to take a couple hits from the Hydra before you hit your Z, and so on and so forth. But I'm really not in the Zagara camp anymore, so I kind of want... I miss being able to ruin Hammer's day, is what I'm really getting at. So Chromie is... I'm Chromie curious, let's put it that way.
Yeah, give her a shot. I found a way to counter Hammer because I was seeing a lot of her as well, and it's Odin off of Tychus. And able to drop those bombs at level 20, just in general putting out the area effect that she wants to run away from, the range increase, there's a lot there for you, but you do need to certainly consider that Chromie's might be showing up everywhere, and she's always been a very popular pick on Towers of Doom, so be prepared for that.
Awesome. You also got a reveal into the level 1 talent Time Walker's Pursuit on Chromie. You can now activate the talent to reveal an area for 2 seconds. Enemies seen are revealed for 4 seconds.
This is now baked in. It is still the little dragon effect that you had previously with the Peer into the Future. It's just now part of your nice little mana talent, which is good. And it already has all the other good things about it, too.
It's a nice inclusion of... It's like a tech choice in a talent that you wanted to take already.
And it helps you avoid deep breathing, which is the level 1 talent that increases your Dragon Breath's damage, but also increases your sight radius. So you can sort of counter that by taking the Time Walker Pursuits. Plus, in a solo queue environment, Chromie does have problems getting sight of the area she's trying to artillery. And that's why Medivh Chromie can be very popular in organized play. And just saying Medivh Chromie in a solo queue environment is insane in my head.
I would not be happy to see that.
Right, so now Chromie can make up for that fact by herself.
Gotcha. Let's look at Kael'thas, because Pyroblast got bumped, man. It's not like gone, but like bumped up. Its cast time has been reduced by half a second. It was 2. It's now 1.5 seconds to throw out that pyro. And the cast range has been increased by what they said, roughly 30%. This makes me excited, man. I always want to take Pyroblast, but it almost never seems right.
You probably should, but in the build you do, I like that you take Phoenix, because you're very living bomb-based for Kael'thas.
Yes. And
particularly if you're doing a full Verdant Spheres build, you are going to have higher single target damage because of the living bombs and the Sunfire enchantment, perhaps, if you go that way. And Phoenix helps fill out the character. If you're going Flame Strike, you don't need area effects. You need to delete.
Yeah. Oh, good point. So I'm excited about that. So get out there, Kael'thas, and throw out those Pyroblasts even faster, even further away than before. Rhaegar, we talked a bit about last week, but I feel like it's worth bringing back up. Get ready to see Bloodlust in your games.
He got a basic attack increase, which is going to serve him well. 21 points there.
Yeah,
Lightning Shield in damage increase. So basically, Brawler Rhaegar is trying to make a comeback without Ancestral Healing.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, expect to take more damage from Rhaegar himself, and expect more damage output to just be a thing from the entire team, because I really think Bloodlust is going to take off. Now that it adds a heal based off of basic attack damage, it's baked in. Man, I can't wait to take this personally. This is one of the main reasons when at the top of the show you go, well, you got to pick one. Are you going to tank, or would you rather support? And I'm just like, no, support, man. Support. Because I know what just happened with Rhaegar.
I love Rhaegar. I have always enjoyed seeing him, particularly because the caliber of people who play Rhaegar are in their master skins and just love him to death, no matter how much he got nerfed. So every time I saw him during this previous season, I was always stoked. He does have the Lily kind of problems where maybe he might not be solo support anymore. Maybe he needs a Kharazim, because the chain heal just can't top you off in between the rewind for Chromie. And that's really my deciding factor. If you're going back in time, I need to heal you up full before that happens. Morales and Malfurion can do that for me.
Fair enough. Artanis we already talked about, but get out there and have some fun, because, my God, Phase Prism. Castable during Blade Dash. I love it. I love it so much.
It's going to be everywhere, and Artanis is still a bruiser in my book, but he might have solo lane ability because of the 75% shield now that he gets at that health amount. He has some merc ability if you end up being quick match or just a weird comp and you need that for Blackheart's Bay. He can fill a lot of other roles than what he was previously doing, which is bruising and lasting a long time standing in one place.
Yeah. You like yourself some Dahaka.
Yeah.
Are you excited about his changes? He got a ton of them, most of which we discussed last week. But have you, obviously it's only been on the live game for a while, but I know you've been playing PTR. What are you thinking on Dahaka?
I think he's good. I think they did a really good job encouraging the underpicks. They did work in a couple of bummer talents, which are sort of odd when they do these reworks. After all the sort of information we've gathered, even looking at Rag, they spent so much time making sure we're not just going to pick all the pictures in a row, and then they put out Rag, who just sort of build the build by picking all the pictures in a row. So to have a couple of weird ones in here, some decreases to encourage other picks, has been odd. But regardless, adaptation may be of use. Now with 100% healed, you can go underground during the last bit of that, get full healed up, pop up when you want. The stealth, the movement while burrowed, all these are great tools. I think my favorite one that we didn't even talk about last time is Essence Claws at level 20. Basic attacks, slow the target by 20% for 1 second, but also give you 5 essence. Like, that sort of stuff is just awesome, and further encourages those who have good essence management to be good at this hero. I've always felt that if a hero has a non-mount ability, you have to invest more time in them to stay good, which is why I haven't become an amazing Dahaka player, Brightwing player, and why I'm sort of halfsies all the time about Falstad.
All right. And then finally Diablo, man. I mean, getting away from, in Blizzard's words, the rabbit hole they went down with Dahaka's talents. Moving on to Diablo. I mean, I know you're excited. Haunted Minds is back. Diablo got some really nice tweaks. Are you still as concerned as you were last week about the meta knowledge of how to just not get killed by Shadow Charge, sending Diablo back down to the bottom after the initial shine of this rework kind of dulling?
Not as much, because you can always draft for the map. And Battlefield of Eternity, while there might be a better tank available, does have an amazing wall access. And I will be taking him in my placements if possible. I think he is very powerful. I think I do have a nuance on him that will serve me well, and certainly will serve me better than someone like Johanna, who is on the roster. She's on the bar. I feel like it's always on a standard level. This Johanna is no better than anyone else's Johanna.
It's just there for those situations where you're like, well, I have to tank, so why not?
I have to tank. I have to blind, perhaps, in this situation. More importantly, I really take Johanna now when I see something that spawns illusions or has multiple targets, so I can do repeat condemns and spec into that way. Still have high damage. But I have a place for her when I'm going to use her. Solo laning for a long time, those sorts of things. I don't know where Diablo fits there. Like I said at the top, pros are banning him out in their scrims. I did delete Azari in the game we just played in under 3 seconds due to the 15% slam damage that I got off on her. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad. I'm ready for some old hero of mine to get a rework where I can be like, yeah, cool. Let me bring my nuance to the table. But it's really not happening. It would mostly be Arthas. That doesn't sound like it's ever happening.
It will happen. They said it's coming, but I'm not sure the weird trepidation they have with updating Arthas.
Yeah. Well, more on that in just a second, by the way. I'm not done with my Arthas gripes. But yeah, let's talk about the dev comments real quick with Diablo before we move on. They said that this is a hero that they have been working on for months. So he's here. They said that he should, in their opinion, excel as a gank-oriented warrior. Punishing folks who are out of position, which sounds like it's right in line with what you're thinking he's going to be, because all you can talk about is, well, what battlegrounds have good wall positioning?
And the reason I'm so scared, they said it right here, punishing out of position enemies. Am I going to face people who get out of position?
That's a good point. Or are
today?
You, and if you are, I mean, if you're playing a bunch of games where you're not playing as Diablo, folks might be standing in places where you're like, oh man, this would be fantastic if I was on Diablo right now. But then you take him and they don't stand in those places.
Right, that's the funny thing, and I constantly hear that during the team leagues, particularly from Gorath. He's like, oh man, if only I had taken Kael'thas in this game. I'm like, well, if we got Kael'thas, then they wouldn't all be grouped up like this, but I totally see what you mean, man. It's frustrating seeing one of your favorite heroes have an option like that.
Yeah. So, finally, Zarya, who we didn't really discuss last week in the PTR, Particle Grenade, her Q ability. It's had its cast animation updated, and the time between casting that particle grenade and performing another action has been reduced by a quarter of a second. And in the dev comments, they said that casting Zarya's particle grenade would force her to be locked in place for a short period of time. We don't do this on other heroes, and we felt like this exception broke the fluidity of the character. I can't think of a single other character that stops moving when they do an ability. Oh, wait, yes, I can. Death Coil on the frickin' Lich King.
Can't argue with you. It's true. And we've been saying that for a long time, that's a very simple update that they could give him.
It's maddening. It is so maddening. Sorry. Personal vendettas coming to a boil. I just don't want to stutter when I press my Q, man. That's all I want.
Can't blame you. Zarya is already really good. Zarya is a fantastic off tank for solo Q too, because you're going to give out a shield that makes someone make a mistake. You thought you could kill Greymane. Now he's at half health, technically under a shield. You messed up. You got a position. You're dead.
She's absolutely one of those heroes that can kind of fill in that support gap that you kind of started the show talking about, how there's only a handful of supports that can solo support. But I feel like Zarya and one of those not solo supports can absolutely work.
Yeah, and she provides a mistake, which is always one of the most important things you can do. And it's instant. And she's got high damage. She absolutely fits my criteria for a bruiser in this case. Mm-hmm. And someone who can absolutely fill out a Lili, fill out a Karuzine.
Right. She saves lives, and then in saving that life, you're, like you said, you're giving them the mistake to make and buffing your damage. It's just, she's kind of the kitchen sink of bruisers, I think.
I think so too. And by the way, this isn't, I've been using Lili as an example a lot here. I, in my heart, do believe that Lili can still solo support for your home games. I understand why the pros don't want it. If you are Vala going with a Lili, you go Raynor instead because you're making up for the lack of heals that we've been talking about. So there's always options, even without going double support or double tank, to get these things to work. That's just not a place for Vala.
Thank you for bringing up that distinction. It's one of the places I thought, it was a question I had in the back of my mind, but I wasn't sure if it seemed too off topic, but I'm glad you made the distinction of Lili's still okay outside of pro games.
Yeah, it depends, right?
Yes. Well, before we take an email and wrap the show up, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/ITN for supporting the show. Again, this Patreon has been running for over a year. We just did our 12th patron hangout, which means we've done a full year of patron hangouts, which was one of our early goals. It's the holidays, always feeling mushy around this time. It means a lot to us. Thank you so much for your support. The amount of downloads that Into Nexus gets compared to how many of you actually go out of your way to support us on Patreon is immense. It's something I don't understand. Hero, like, of all the Blizzard games, I mean, Heroes it's kind of it's a niche topic, right? Like this, I mean, we started the show talking about it's esports aren't it's not up to snuff with other esports out there, but the Heroes community never ceases to amaze me with their passion, and the same thing goes for the ITN community. It's impressive. So thank you for your support, everyone. We really do appreciate it. And if you like the show, check out patreon.com/ITN. On this episode, we want to thank Garibaldi, Altama B, Jean AVC, Archexis. I'm going to go with Archexis, Nitraz, Jim Fammy, Raphael M, and John J M. Thank you for supporting ITN, and hope to talk to you on a future patron hangout and or play a game with you in after show games. Let's take an email since we actually have time for a change, Kyle. Shall we?
Sounds good.
Darkness stopped calling.
I hear the wilds call. Wait, nature calls.
Okay, tell them I'm not here.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com, and Chad writes in and wants to know, in our unbiased opinion, what hero is OP and what would we do to fix them, or what would we change? Also, who do you feel is underpowered, and how would you bring them up to being playable in a more serious Team League environment? Let Arthas keep moving when casting Death Coil.
There you go.
He gave his 2 cents and said he thinks Alarak is OP. The range on Telekinesis and Lightning Surge is simply too far. Reduce it by 20%. And as far as underpowered, he thinks Uther is change the cooldowns on Holy Light and Holy Radiance from 12 seconds to 10. I wouldn't mind seeing that on Uther personally.
Those are some nice little adjustments he gave.
Yeah, and I'm with him. I've been really getting beat up against Alarax as of late. But I think it's because it took a little while for his popularity to reach the caliber of players I'm playing against, so I'm just unpracticed with him. So I'm not going to go as far as say as I think he's overpowered as I am unpracticed in battling him.
It's also a really rough cooldown to keep track of. 12 seconds on Telekinesis. He's not going to engage before he has it in most cases. He's going to poke you with Lightning Surge, so you think you got away. Same problem as Thrall. He pings you out, you go down. Same thing with Zarya. Great ping, which is another thing you want to look for in these powerful heroes, too. On top of everything else I talked about already, having some ping is incredible.
Yeah.
Alarak has it. But 12 seconds, that's not Blizzard. That's not Flame Strike. It just occupies this different space in your head, and it's hard to imagine when he's going to engage. And since he moves you and not himself, it's not the ETC dance. ETC's always doing this like, oh, I'm going to get you, with this power slide thing that he's doing because he wants to be just barely in range to get to the other side of you and create a body block before face melting you outwards. Alarak moves you, and that's another difficulty dealing with him.
Yeah, it's what we want from this development team, right? Unique ways to do similar effects. Because the end goal is the same, but the way telekinesis functions is, trying to dodge it is a whole new mental gymnastic to master.
I'm gonna give my OP heroes Chen, and that's slightly cheating because it's all over the place. It's all over the pro scene, the meta lists, and everything else. It also has a lot to do with that I don't quite get him in a personal level. I don't feel the joy of ha ha ha. You've wailed on me for 20 minutes. Huzzah! I need that. I need that feedback. I need that Diablo who smashed you. And yes, I survived, but it was by just barely because I had 8,000 health. There's something about Chen that just breaks all the other ways you can play against tanks. I mean, Tychus, I don't care. You're going to stand still. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and end the rhythm and get this quest up as much as we can. But anyone else, I really struggle to figure out how to counter him. And there's multiple play styles now, too. You got the Keg Smashers who are just kicking every 2 seconds because of the resets. You have these guys who just go ham on Earth until Storm, Earth, and Fire, and then they get out for free.
Yeah. Chen is... Oh, that's a close one for me. I'm going to go with Zarya. We just spoke about her. She just drives me bananas. I know not to attack the shield, but it's still... I'm just staring at someone I want to freaking kill that I just can't do anything about. And the amount of times that stupid grenade has killed me is just beyond. Zarya definitely elicits a very, very salty gut reaction from me.
I would agree with that on Chen. The Wandering Keg. If I am Li Ming and I have a short-range teleport that I can't use because I'm being pushed, that's the one way I would fix Chen. Everything else I can deal with, but oh man, when you get stuck in that corner and that barrel's locking down your spells, you're silenced practically in there. And maybe you get a quick second to teleport out as Monk or use that Li Ming, but it's tough if they're right on you.
Yeah. As to what I would do to change it, I don't know. I mean, I don't really think anyone truly is, I would categorize as 100% overpowered and something needs to be done. Zarya, for me, is just, the most frustrating hero I come up against regularly right now, but I don't think I really want much changed. I like what she brings to the game overall. I would just so much rather have her on my team rather than playing against her.
For my underpowered hero, I'm going to pick Tassadar. He doesn't, in my book, he doesn't bring enough damage to warrant taking him in a solo queue environment. If you are doing Tassadar, Vala, Lee, something like that, yes, in a pro environment, that Vala has the output, but he's got decent lane clear. I just want a little more damage, and honestly, that might be on the way with this Archon rework they've talked about.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about that last week. That was a nice little kind of hint, and I'm excited to see what happens there as well. Tassadar's always been a hero that I like a lot, but just never find an excuse to play him.
And he should be a little underpowered because of Dimensional Shift. You walk out of anything for free, you're invisible,
I disagree.
unrevealable.
Samoro exists now. There's no more excuse.
Oh, that's interesting. But Tassadar has range, so Sammy does have to get in melee, and there's a lot of talents that counter him. I mean, I had those illusions today on my Diablo coming down the lane, and I just sat there, let them live, and was completing my quest against them.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think Sammy does damage Tassadar better than damage Tassadar, and Zarya kind of does shield Tassadar better than shield Tassadar because of the damage output that comes when you make the mistake of attacking her shield. So he needs something.
Right. I agree with you 100% there in a vacuum. The real thing that's happening there is you're saying we are creating a team that will not retreat with Zarya because she has no movement abilities. Whereas Tassadar, you can create a team with Tracer and other people who bail out, so you're not leaving Zarya for dead. But in a vacuum, give me the option, are we going to take Tassadar or Zarya for this Vala? Solo queue, I want the Zarya every time.
Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, I was 100% serious with my Arthas thing. That's my pick for underpowered. That's how I would fix him. So, anyways, Chad, dude, thank you for your email. As for everyone else listening, if you'd like to send a message into the Nexus, you can send it to itncast@gmail.com. That is going to wrap it up for our Ragnaros release day episode. Also, our first, weird December time on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern episode. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you again to our badass patrons supporting us at patreon.com/ITN. If you listen on iTunes and you like the show, drop us a 5-star review. Those always help. And other than that, check out amove.tv. Huge thanks to our Patreon producers, Declan H and Cheesy Bob. I believe both of you have been supporting us for almost over a year at this point, if not even longer, which is just nuts. Thank you guys. You can get the Into the Nexus t-shirt over at shirts.amove.tv. Catch us live usually Thursday nights, but right now Wednesday nights, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And follow us on Twitter at ITNcast. And thank you to Gorath for our intro music and Brian Griffith for our outro music. Kyle, where can folks find you where you're usually continuing to drop knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb on heroes?
You can find me on my stream, and in fact, a live crowd here. I am going to basically take a short break and then get straight to my first 5 placement games. So stick around. I'll host it here on A-Move, but that'll be over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. The same thing is going to happen tomorrow night. So if you do attend the regular show at 5 p.m., I will be hosting my placement match, my final 5, during that time, 5 p.m. Pacific, over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson, hosted on A-Move.
Very sweet. Folks, you can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art, and everything else I do is at amove.tv. Many other shows out there. Check out the WoW show I'm doing called For Azeroth. Been having a good time talking World of Warcraft with Jocelyn over there. Everything else is there as well. If you need graphic design, check out nomoonart.com. That's my graphic design portfolio, and you can contract me over there. That's going to do it for this episode. Use the code ITN over at doghousesystems.com to get a free solid-state drive added onto your gaming PC. You can also use the code ITN over at tweakedaudio.com, where you'll get 30% off and free shipping off of your entire order of noise-reducing earbuds and headphones from Tweaked Audio. We thank them for their support. We thank you all for listening, and until next time, good luck, have fun, and don't stand in the lava wave.
Don't run along with it either.